They gave me this printout of $7,000 worth of tickets all the way back to 1997. So none of this has come up. I've gotten my license renewed. I've gotten tags.
She points out that a bunch of these tickets are for cars that she never owned.
Yeah, I have one here from an Acura. I never had an Acura in my life. I had one here from a Hyundai. Never had a Hyundai.
I mean, it can stop you from getting a driver's license, getting your car registered. And when you go down to the D.C. DMV and say, hey, these aren't my tickets, they look at you and say, your 60 days are up. You have no recourse here. Well, this is what Emily Miller over at Fox 5 has been investigating for the last couple of nights. We've talked to you about it. We've gotten some great response. We've heard other stories like the ones that Emily has found of people who found themselves in a complete mess because of what was going on at the DMV. Emily Miller now joins us live. Good morning, Emily.
Morning. So good to hear you guys again.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So, you got into this. You found out that you can get in a lot of trouble if you have old tickets you don't take care of. But in a lot of these cases, the people claim it wasn't their car. It wasn't their tickets. They weren't responsible for it. They had no idea they were there. And yet they have no recourse when they go to the DMV.
Yeah, well, the DMV and DC's philosophy is guilty and you can't get to prove yourself innocent. That's pretty much it. So it affects, obviously, for your listeners, it affects drivers in Virginia and Maryland as much as D.C. because obviously they drive through D.C., commute or work forever, whatever. And people like the woman you just heard from the $7,000 tickets, she lives in Maryland, but she had her driver's license suspended in Maryland because of these D.C. tickets. And as you heard in that little bit there, she said, Corey Banks, her name, she said, I never owned an Acura. I never owned a Hyundai, or I owned this Honda, but I owned it 5 years after these tickets were written. So she is innocent of a lot of those tickets, but D.C. has just discovered them, $7,000 worth now, and she can't pay that, so she can't get it. Her driver's license was suspended in Maryland.
So here's what I'm not understanding, Emily, and hopefully I'm sure you have the answer to this. That woman who just said, I've never owned this Hyundai, I've never owned this Acura. How did the DMV justify linking a car that she never owned to her address, to her driver's license number? There has to be some connection.
Well, Larry, you assume I know a lot more than the DMV, but I do not, because the DMV has magical powers, and the DC DMV, where they just invent things. And this is not normal government. This is DC government.
Well, I think, frankly, government. That is normal government. I mean, you're describing an inefficient bureaucracy that is uncaring of the citizenry. That is normal government, but you're right. It's maybe accentuated in DC. So when she goes up and she says, wait a minute, this is not my car. It never was my car. I've never owned a car like that. You can't prove that I've owned a car like that. What's the DMV's response?
Well, here's the part that is driving these people bananas, and it's so horrible, and this is why the D.C. government is completely out of control. They've created this new collections unit just in the last couple of years, and the collections unit is digging through the trash, looking for what they can charge people, because obviously the government, who makes $180 million a year off traffic tickets, thinks it needs more. So this all started when a woman came to me, and she got a ticket. She went to renew her her license plates, and was given a ticket from 1985 for $50.
Wow!
And she couldn't get her. So
that's older than you, Emily Miller.
Oh yes. I was not even a thought in my mother's eye in 1985. So she was like, what is this? And so that's when I went to city council and said to Mary Che, what is this? And she said, that must be our new collections unit. They're looking for old tickets. Well, they hadn't thought through that the DMV is coming up with some crazy stuff and throwing at people, and because you can only adjudicate in 60 days, people can't fight. So to answer your question, Larry, Corey Banks did go to the DMV, and she's tried to say those things, and she walked in the DMV. Have you all been to the D.C. DMV?
Yeah.
It is the place where you go crazy. You go from there to St. Elizabeth.
Now you went down to talk to the person in charge of the DMV, and you asked them about this question. Why is it when they come in here and say, these aren't my tickets, that they're told you have no recourse because you didn't take action within 60 days? Listen to this little clip from your report last night. 35. Cup 35, Mike.
They gave me this printout of $7,000 worth of tickets all the way back to 1997.
Let's go to cut 36 now. Cut 36, Mike.
If they walk in and say they need to adjudicate tickets and the tickets are 15 years old, the response is your time period is over.
They go to register their car or go to get a new driver's license, and they're told you have to pay this $4,000 or you have to pay this $6,000 or you can't get it. End of story. You have no appeal. You have no due process. I don't understand how you're saying these people can do something.
I said, Emily, they can go to adjudication.
You're saying no matter how old these tickets are, they can go to adjudication.
Well, not to adjudicate, but they can go for investigation.
These people go into C Street and say,
That's the part that drove me crazy. They can go to adjudication, but not to adjudicate. And we'll give you information, but the information is basically, here's a printout of your tickets.
Isn't that the most enraging?
It is absolutely enraging. What did you think when you heard that?
Oh, I was about to take my microphone and throttle her with it because I've just gone through days and days of interviewing people with $4,000 and $6,000 tickets, and this is the answer the head of the DMV, who, by the way, would not sit for an interview. I had to stalk her at City Council to get that.
Good for you.
And it says, and then she comes up with this thing where she says, "Oh, well, they can come and get and investigate," which no one's ever heard of this before. So I was like, well, at least we have an opening here. We have something that they can do and say, this is not my car. This was not my car. Or I didn't have this address. These aren't even my tags. So after that interview, I followed up with her, and I said, how about I take some of these people we've profiled, go down there, and you can show how people can get an investigation. No response. Emailed again. Hi, Lucinda. Just checking in. I said, it's not a public building, the DMV, but I'm just trying to do this with you. Let's show them how I can investigate. No response. Finally, I'm like, Lucinda, I'm coming down there one way or the other with the camera crew to show how this works. Can you do this on the up and up? No response.
Wow.
So I'm going anyway.
Well, clearly, Emily Miller, she's getting a little exasperated with you asking all these pesky questions. I mean, you could hear it in her voice. I said, Emily, that they can go adjudicate. But so where does it stand now? I mean, if you're one of these poor people who have thousands of dollars of parking tickets, you're trying to get registration, you don't get a day in court. There is no justice for you. Is there anything? Is there any politician on your side on this?
In D.C., no, none. But here's what I would tell drivers, and this is if you're in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C., and you get anything happens to you over these old D.C. tickets that are just now coming up. Number one, do not pay, because a DMV will close your account, and you can't fight them if you pay, and it's not your ticket. And number two is, and I hate to tell them this, go to C Street in person. This is what we're going to try to do on camera.
No!
I know. It's basically taking vacation because you're going to be down there for so long. Like, take a 2-week vacation, go to the DMV in C Street. Do not ask to adjudicate because we all heard how bad that word goes over. Ask to have your ticket investigated. This is if you're totally innocent.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
we're not trying to give people advice on how to get out of
how
it.
to scam
Fine,
the system.
right.
Yeah. Well,
right.
listen. I think it's amazing that what you have uncovered, and it's got to be, there's got to be something done. One hopes that new mayor Muriel Bowser is paying attention to your reporting and the comments that we're hearing over here at WMAL.
Oh, they're paying attention. They're not going to do anything.
What? We're not going to pass up all this money.
Emily, great job.
If anyone's listening and they want to call or email Muriel Bowser about this, I think that's a very good idea.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Good work.
Thanks, guys. Good talking to you.